amigos? Sorry, it's been a long time since I rapped at you. Been really busy with midterms, and then Audrey came to visit me for a few days. Just dropped her off at the airport, and wanted to make a video about something that's been on my mind, and she and I talked about it a little bit. Is this whole second best option compared to a high-carb, raw vegan meal, fruits and vegetables, low-fat, high-carb. And a lot of people say that if you have the option between high-fat, raw, and low-fat, clean cooked, they should go with low-fat, clean cooked. And they think it's the healthier option. And I just want to say my piece on this because I think my opinion's a little bit different, and I don't really think there's much point in making a video and just parroting back like exactly what all the authorities quote unquote say. And so this may be a little controversial. I'm not trying to create controversy. I'm just trying to offer my opinion and my experiences here and force you guys to think a little critically, because I think there's a lot of people just sort of towing the line of, whatever Durian Ryder says, whatever Doug Graham says, I'm just going to make a video like parroting back the same point, and in some cases trying to look and act and be exactly like one of these authority people. So I think that's going to be a big theme in my videos coming up, is like think critically and think for yourself, and really find out what works for you. And so I want to say that I've been all raw for like 80-something days now, and I've done like 150 in the past. And so, I've had my ups and downs, but been on a good streak. It's been really easy here in California to eat all raw. It's like in Southern California with the produce and the foraging and the wholesalers and the farmers markets. It's like barely even need to go to a grocery store. I'm getting about 10 to 20% of my fruit for free right now, which is awesome. So it's really easy to stay raw. And, every once in a while, like I'll think about something cooked, but I don't have like the hardcore cravings. It's real easy to just stay on point when you have so much abundance around you. But in the case of, like for my birthday a few days ago, I had gourmet raw. Did I wake up the next morning dead or like, have blood coming out my nose or anything like that? No. And I think that when I'm in a situation where I can't get fruit and it's either high-fat raw or low-fat cooked vegan, I'm going to tend to go towards the high-fat raw, and I want to explain why. Number one, it's like a one-time thing. It's like I have it and then I don't want it again, and I'm good for one time. And as long as I really can't like binge out on it. Like I'll have some and then I'll kind of like, I'll know when I'm full and when I'm done and when I don't want any more. And it's not like something I'll keep going back to, partly because of the cost. It's like, it's fairly expensive, especially when fruit is so cheap out here. And it's just like I have it once and then I don't want it again for a long time. Whereas for me, like cooked food, I think is, it can be a slippery slope for me. And Audrey said that it was this case for her too. And I'm not saying it's like this for everybody. I think there's people that, eat pretty clean, cooked on it, a daily basis. And for me, it's sort of like, okay, well, the first thing I'll have is like, just steamed rice and broccoli with, some dulse powder or something like that. Like really clean, no, very little seasoning, no accoutrement, as they say. And then it'll just sort of be like, oh, well, I had that. And the next day I'll be like, well, I'm not really raw right now, so I can have cooked food again. And then maybe it's like a burrito bowl from Freebirds. And then it's like, oh, okay, I can have like, and then it's like, I can have a few chips, And so I'll have like a bag of chips. And things just kind of progress. And it's like, oh, well, I've been eating cooked food for a few days. Like, oh, I can handle some French fries. Hey, things just kind of go downhill. Like it becomes like a series of rationalizations onto the next level of like low quality stuff. Now it's always vegan, but I start getting a lot of oil and salt in there just because it's tempting, because the food like doesn't have a lot of flavor. Starch doesn't really have any flavor, so you got to season it, and you kind of want more and more of that seasoning, and you kind of stoop to lower and lower levels of what's healthy until you're eating things that definitely aren't healthy anymore. And for me, psychologically, it's just much better to say, okay, I'm still raw. Like, I had this thing that wasn't ideal, but I'm still raw. Whereas with cooked food, I just tend to go down this slippery slope of rationalizing the next step lower and the next step lower of, you know, quality and how healthful things are for me. And that's when I get into these ruts of just like, you know, eating like Chinese food 3 or 4 times a week, even though it's vegan Chinese food. I know it's like got salt and oil and a bunch of spices. And so for me to maintain an overall level of consistency with good diet, it's just easier to have high fat raw once in a while. And by once in a while, I mean like once to twice a month at most. At most. And, you know, maybe occasional like kombucha or bag of kale chips like once a week at most. Do I think that in a given meal, a clean, high-carb cooked meal that's just like, you know, no oil, no salt, no added sugar, minimal seasoning is better than a high-fat raw? Yes, probably. But I think that for me, psychologically, and just the way things work and the force of habit, it sort of leads me down a slippery slope. So in the long run, it's not the better choice. But in like just the singular, this meal versus that meal, in a vacuum, yes, it's the better choice. And so I've just been, you know, I've probably had gourmet raw 3 times since I've been out in California for the past 2.5 months. So it really hasn't had much of a negative effect. I was like a little bit gassy yesterday and had some mucus and stuff like that, but really the negative effects have been minimal. Now, if I was eating this, you know, once a week or a couple times a week, it'd be a lot different, and I think that it might even have that addictive effect. But for me, definitely, like once in a while, it still works. I still feel great, and I don't go down this slippery slope with the vegan cooked foods. So if you're eating vegan cooked foods, I mean, and it works for you, awesome. If you're doing it consistently, you know, eating clean, like Engine 2 style, that's great. I never really had that background. I switched from, you know, kind of junk food vegetarian right into raw. And so I don't have that base of experience of eating like clean Engine 2 McDougall style, you know, meal after meal consistently without, you know, getting too much into seasonings, oil and salt and stuff like that. So that's just what works for me. I thought, you know, that might be brain candy for a few of you guys out there that, you know, are struggling with, you know, balancing some raw with some cooked. That's why I really don't eat much cooked food, or really any cooked food now, but I have nothing against it. I think if you can do it in a sustainable way, then that's great. Do what works for you. But for me, I really just like to have high-fat raw once in a while to, you know, take the edge off without going down a slippery slope of, you know, oil and salt and seasonings on cooked food. So would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know, and I'm looking forward to making more videos soon. Take it easy, guys.